Hey YouTube, Roy Marco with Marco Custom Build Models coming to you today with the 1967 Impala from Supernatural. If you recall, I did an unboxing on this, and if you want to see the unboxing, you can go back to some of my earlier videos. And inside the box, they gave a decal here for the inside of the trunk lid. And I didn't really know too much about the car for the show, because I don't really watch it. And people would comment that this decal goes underneath the trunk lid, and could you please show how to make that happen? So for my fans to see that, I made the trunk lid open. I'm going to show you how I did that and explain it, and also why to do the kit properly you not only need one but two of these Supernatural kits. And let me get to it and explain why. So, first off, they did a good job on the body. They definitely got things correct. The body's good. The roof line is nice. The trunk lid is the correct width, and that's good. But they did not redesign the rear bumper. So if you line up the trunk lid with the rear bumper, the notches for that are definitions for the trunk don't line up with the four-door trunk. But if we go back to the two-door body, the definitions line up for that. So that's just one of the issues that never got addressed. Okay. Also, let's get into some of the interior modifications I've had to do. And also for the trunk, I built this nifty box that opens up and allows you to put all the things inside that belong to the show. And I'm going to start building some of those things. I just got a couple of guns. I know they have a shotgun I've seen, and also like a handgun. That's not exactly how they're going to sit, but they're in the box, and that box will easily fit in the trunk lid here, underneath the trunk lid, sorry, in the trunk. There you go. And so that will all fit within the trunk, so you'll be able to open the box and the trunk lid and have that detail. So I did not leave that out. The weapons I got from the old Goon Car 1978 Dodge Monaco, but you can buy that kit today, and it comes with the guns. So if you're looking for the guns, that model kit will have it in earlier releases of it. Now let's get into some of the changes that had to be made. Is the inner fender well on this side. If you look on the model kit before, has some hoses here that are molded in, and they look like they could be maybe they're battery cables, I'm not sure, but they kind of end here. There's nothing to continue them on. And the kit does come with a set of hoses that go into the firewall for heater hoses from the engine. So I took the liberty of shaving these off because I just thought they looked hokey on the fender. And so now that fender well is smooth on the inside. And when I get my heater hoses on, they'll lay up on the fender well and then go into the firewall for this small block Chevy. So I just wanted to point out that was one of the body modifications I also made to this car. Okay, one of the things I want to talk about right off the bat, if you're building this and you're not opening up the trunk or anything like that, is hood fitment. The hood fits on there, but if you notice, it actually doesn't close all the way. There's a bit of a gap here that widens because it can't actually close all the way down. And the reason for that is when they redesigned the hood, this front bar here, the rad support, is too tall and it sticks up higher than the radiator shroud, which is probably how it looks on the real car. What I've had to do is sand it down flat so that it matches the same level as that shroud, so that when you put the hood on, it will actually close. Okay. Another thing too is the hood comes with a very sharp definition on the corner here, and it needs to be softened out, something like that, because that's how it would look on the real car. Okay, so that's the hood. Simple modifications, but just note, if you're just building the model, even out of the box, to get that to fit right, take the time, sand that down, sand this down so that you can get a nice flat hood sitting there. Okay. Now, one of the things that happened to me with this model, let me just get rid of the body for a sec here, go down to the chassis, was it came with a big block Chevy 427, and of course I realized that the car was an automatic, so I had to get an automatic transmission. This is from the 1970 Monte Carlo kit. I happened to have one that was somebody had put together badly. I was able to recycle the transmission out of it, and able to cut off the manual transmission that came in the kit and put the automatic on it, only to find out that the car actually is a 327 small block car, which of course will not have a turbo 400. It will have a 2-speed power glide. So that's had to come out of Revell's 1964 Impala SS kit. Comes with the small block 327 with a 2-speed power glide. So I had to make that fit in the chassis, and it does fit quite well. Not that big a deal. The wheels, well, they came from the kit. Same with the tires. And the only modification I really did to this chassis is something I do on all my kits, is I make it steel axle so that the wheels, not so much that it rolls, but the nice thing about it is when it sits on the shelf, the wheels aren't falling off. It's also very sturdy, and the wheels stay nice and straight. They also align nicely with the car. So that's always something I do to my chassis. And how I achieved that was the rear differential. I cut it and then fitted tubes on each side that are hollow, and then filled in the back and drilled it so that the backing plates accepted the steel axle. And the front, same idea, just put it all together and then just drilled it. You can hardly see it. When it's all in there, you don't even see the axle. And the reason I do that is just I can also control my ride height where I want it to sit very easily. And it's just durability. So many times you see models and the wheels are falling off on the shelf. And so if people ask why would I put a steel axle back in the model, that's why I do it. Another option, you can glue the wheels on solid. You know, they're not going to go anywhere. But that's how I do it. That's what I like to do. So I think that covers all the modifications to the chassis so far. On the body and interior side of things, the interior platform got some changes, and so starting at the rear, I just put these two blocks in here just so that when it clips into the body with the modifications I've done, this interior doesn't slide around and it stays exactly where I want it. So for fitment, I can get everything set up correctly. I had filled in the back with a panel. That's not hard to do. You buy some flat styrene and you just cut it to the size and it fills that panel in quite nicely. Also, I shaved off these ribs for the rear seat alignment, and I'll show you why. I filled in the hole here. Not that you really see that, the seat covers it, you don't have to do that one. And I also filled in the front hole, as well as modified the front portion here where the console goes on the two-door hardtop. And on this one I had actually, there's enough material here, if you look on the back, it's pretty uniform. So I was able to make it uniform on the front with the Dremel, and then sand it out, and then fill the holes. Also, there's this part of the floor is smooth when it should be carpeted, as well as there's a sort of a nasty little sink here. It's not that big a deal. They're not horrible, I should say. But I want to show you how I address that and how I also add texture to the floor here. So using the plastic magic glue that you see in the background over there, I put it into a smaller bottle when I use it, and I use an old tester's brush that I cut short. I want to show you a technique that I wanted to try, and this is the first time I've tried it on a model, and it worked out really well, so I thought I'd share it with you. So one of the things is this little sink here, for instance. I'm just going to take my Dremel here, and I'm just going to take it down so it's nice and level. And there's also one on that side. Okay, I just took down the one side to show you what I want to show you on the technique. And so now there's no high spots on that. And how this has sort of a smooth surface that I'm going to show you what I did. So to blend all that, this glue isn't really so much a glue as it is a solvent that sort of dissolves the plastic and welds everything together. And what I do is I apply it on there quite heavily and on a smooth surface after I did my modifications. And then I take the brush and I dip it, and what it does is, because the plastic becomes malleable and soft, it actually, just by dipping the brush in there, sort of hashes in the carpet marks, and you can do that here too. So if you want a little more, you just apply more and then just dab it. Now, of course, on this one, I'll go ahead and fix this up because this will be a four-door again, but it won't be a supernatural car, but I probably won't use the console. I'll probably make the same floor pan modifications. Okay, so by dabbing it down like that, I've created a texture back on it. And that is how I created the texture back on the floor. If you can see, it kind of looks like carpet again. Now, if you are familiar with flocking, some people will flock this, and a lot of that stuff won't matter, but I just wanted to show you a technique that I learned and tried, and I just thought I'd pass it on to my fellow modelers. So let's get to that rear box on the inside. This box I just made out of flat styrene. And the guns are loose in here. They're just set in there, just to show you. Made the dividing made the dividing compartments the way I saw it in the TV show. And it's just, I put a couple of pieces of styrene here just to raise it up a little bit, so it's not sitting flat on that floor. Okay. And I made the hinge myself by using a piece of styrene that I'd cut a tube, and then inserting a piece of brass and gluing 3 parts to the lid and 2 parts to the body of this box. And it closes and opens quite nicely with enough resistance that when I open it to a point, it will stay there without needing a prop rod. Okay. And when it was all done, I just sanded everything smooth so the lid lined up perfectly with the bottom, and that's how I made that box. And it should be like 3/4 inch plywood, I think, on the real car, so that's sort of the thickness and definition I've created there. Now what I'm going to do is I'll glue this down, and I'll give this whole thing a spray just to show you how that turns out. Also, the box I made the right width so that it didn't interfere with the trunk hinges. So to give you an example, I made one box that was too wide and it would hit the trunk hinges. So this is, and I didn't finish that box, I realized that before I made the inserts and lids, so this one does fit in there quite nicely. So I just glued the box here that goes in the trunk and just gave it a quick shot of some base coat that I use. I find works really well with models. It's a good transition between the plastic and paint. And I just sort of discovered this. It's a cast iron color made by Dynamic. Seems to go on real nice and thin. Allows me to give it a good base coat, and then I'll put my other paint on top. So just a good way to blend everything and test, see how things look before you get your color on. I have to now do the interior color along with the sides, and then the seats go black. That's one of the things I need to talk about. When you buy your kit, it comes with a back seat. It was in the Impala SS model, and it's got a different pattern than the front seat they provide for you. So I didn't even notice this until actually just before the film here. I was going to do a film, and then I see that, the seats don't match. So that was kind of driving me nuts. I went back and looked at a piece in the film, only to realize that the four-door seat doesn't even have the badge that goes here. And I'll show you what that badge looks like because I had put it in. This is the Impala badge that goes in the back seat of the hardtop or the convertibles and things like that. And maybe a high-end four-door, I'm not sure. But in any case, this is not the back seat to match the front seat. So they made the molds for the front seat, but did not give you a back seat. So if you notice, I've already cut the package tray off on this seat, and this is where you need to buy not only one but two kits, so you can get another front seat and then glue this package tray onto the back of that seat. I add a little bit here for strength, and then also sand this down a little bit so that it can become your back seat in the model, and so that your front and back seat, the patterns match, and it's not a mix match pattern. This has a very fancy upholstery on it, as where this car has a very plain upholstery on it. So that's one of the changes that I made because I had the other kit. What I'll end up doing is I'll turn this into a front bench seat for the other car. I will fill this in, and that'll be a set of seats on my second model. So it's not all gone to waste, but in this case, this has to be for the Supernatural, for the movie, to make the movie car. I had to get another front seat to make it correct for the back. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Now I know you've all been waiting for the body here, so let's get to that. So the trunk. Here's the trunk. Here's the back bumper. Back bumper goes in here. I had to cut the top part of the bumper off and glue it onto the trunk, so when it opens, that part comes with it. In the model kit, all of those pieces are molded into one piece. Okay. And then I had to build the inside of the trunk structure, and I just ended up gluing some styrene and filing and sanding that out to fit. Just adding little pieces. You can see kind of the rough cut underneath. And going on the back side of it, I'll show you that. It's just, I made some, after cutting out the trunk, I made some flat pieces and put it inside here, and then just stacked up some different materials. First I cut a shape, glued it in, and then made some supports, and ended up making that trunk opening, which is very distinctive on this car, and that's why I went ahead and did that. Now it's not exactly perfect and accurate to the car by 100%, but I feel I got it close enough that I'm happy with it. Inside of the trunk detail, I added the ribs and things like that. Now again, there's like this piece would be stamped in part of this bottom piece, and I didn't go ahead and make it 100% like the real car, but I wanted to give it some definition. Now it's going to be a pain to put that decal on because it won't be a smooth surface anymore, so I may have to hand paint it. So all this work to put the decal on, and well, anyway, I'm going to try using the decal. They make some great decal softeners and things like that now. They'll flow and seat pretty good, so I'm going to try it. And again, I'll let you know how that works out. The trunk lid is removable right now. I just made these trunk hinges, and if you go on the inside, they're both separate. You could slide one out or both out, and that is the hinge. Now it is a lot of work to get that right, but I just cold bent some solid brass, and I think I even used this tool here to make the bend to go around for my initial U shape to start the hinge process there. Now I've got to be careful with these. I mean, they're tough, but they're also aligned. It takes a bit to get aligned, otherwise the trunk will sit crooked. either front high or low at the back or whatever. So you have to get it just right. And then I glued in a piece of plastic rod here ahead of this so that the trunk hinge geometry comes up and kicks the trunk forward like on the real car. So let me just put this back together for you. And again, these fit snug enough but not loose enough that the trunk will hold itself up without a prop rod. And then I just glue on some round tubing on the trunk lid and slide this in here. Now the reason I work with plastic on the trunk side and the car side is the glue I have basically welds that in there, or you could use a brass tube, but a brass tube would also give you less resistance and that trunk would just fall closed. This way it actually stays open and then closes when I want it to close. So that's the trunk lid there and trunk opening. And I just gave it a shot of that same cast blast so you could see, otherwise it was just multi-levels of styrene, and I myself also wanted to see if that's smooth enough or if it needs any more work. I see I need to do a little bit of sanding and a little bit of work in there, but all in all I got that pretty much set up. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray the bottom of this trunk lid so you can see what it looks like in one color, because it's very harsh to see the black and the white, and even myself, I'm dying to see how that looks in one color. So I basically left it like this so you could see what work I did. But now I'm going to just give it a shot for the final sequence for you. Trunk lid, just gave it a quick shot of paint, and as you can see, it definitely gives you a much cleaner definition of what's going on in there. It doesn't pop so much. Definitely looks a lot neater and cleaner, so I'm quite happy with how that turned out. Okay. So now I'm just going to paint all this stuff black after I get the bodywork done, and then I can work on getting the decal and things like that. But I just wanted to throw some base color on just to show you what that'll look like. And that's pretty much all I have to show you on this model. Okay, there you have it, the 1967 Impala 4-door hardtop from AMT and Round 2 models for the movie or the TV show series Supernatural. And my rendition of what I'm going to do, again, I'm building an early car, so it has a small block Chevy 2-speed power glide transmission. Apparently later the car got a big block, I'm not exactly sure. Although the car does sound like a big block when it pulls up somewhere, but from all the research I've done, it should be a small block. But who knows, you can build it your way, have some fun with it. This is what I was doing, and I just wanted to share it with you. And these modifications and changes that I've done, maybe some of them you could use on your own kit, and just wanted to pass on some things that I've learned. So thanks for watching as always. If you like, please subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and have yourself a great day.